Moving to this now, passengers at OR Tambo International Airport are still stranded following some delays earlier today due to technical issues and challenges with the fuel supply from the storage facility. This impacted the refueling of aircraft. Our reporter Moloko Moloto is following that story for us and joins us now. Moloko, has there been any updates since we last spoke?
Hello, Shadika. Well, just to give our viewers an update, the passengers really are no longer stranded here. They seem to be checking in, and we have had an opportunity of speaking to some of them, and also airlines such as the South African Airways, having looked at the lines just in front of the check-in counter. Things seem to be back to, normal. But of course, I just want you to take a look, Shadika. If you can see at that board there, you will see in red, those are the flights indicating that, or information indicating that some of the flights are delayed. When we got here, some of them were actually delayed indefinitely. And of course, I would just ask my colleague Asanda to show you some of the passengers on the floor as they are going towards the check-in counters. It would appear that things are increasingly getting back to normal. But of course, we spoke to the South African Airways, which of course is one of the airlines operating here from OR Tambo International Airport, and they did say that the inconvenience actually started from as early as 4 o'clock this morning. Their first flight that was meant to be out to Cape Town. Passengers were already on board at the time, and they were not able as SAA to take off because they did not have fuel, and they have had to disembark those particular passengers, and that continued. AXA issued a statement at about 9 o'clock this morning saying that there is no fuel shortage at OR Tambo International Airport. What is happening is just a technical error where a valve is malfunctioning, and as a result they have had to resort to manual refueling of planes. They said that the matter has now been resolved and technicians remain on site. Now, we saw the Minister of Transport, Fikile Mbalula, also issuing out a statement saying that he's been briefed by the management of AXA that reassured him that things will be back to normal. However, one important point that the minister is making, besides him apologizing for this inconvenience, he has urged AXA to really start communicating promptly so that they do not unnecessarily inconvenience the travelers. And ironically, we were told by AXA when we got there here 2 hours back that the person who would come and speak to us as media is busy elsewhere, and they are not committing that he or they will be coming out to speak to us. However, importantly, they pointed out that this particular problem has been attended to. But let's listen to the representative from South African Airways who was just explaining the impact this has had on their operations.
What happened is AXA only advised the airlines at 6, but this issue started at around 4 a.m. So it impacted us in a sense that our first flight to Cape Town, we were already boarding and we had to deboard because now the aircraft couldn't be fueled.
And how many flights were delayed, and did you have to cancel some of them altogether?
No, we didn't cancel any flights. We were delayed. It was a total of 9 flights out of Orsia, and the delay was between, the hardest one was the Cape Town one, which was 3.5 hours. So it was between 3.5 hours and 20 minutes.
Moloko, you said you managed to speak to some passengers at ORT this morning. What have they been saying?
Well, firstly, Shadika, if you went onto social media, you would have seen the frustrations that passengers were really expressing, saying that they have been seated here and their flights are delayed. And you can understand, because oftentimes people, when they leave, either they are going for meetings, commitments elsewhere, or even on holidays. So that tends to impact their plans ahead. Some of them would possibly miss their meetings and all that. So we saw that frustration being expressed mainly on social media. Now, when we arrived here, we did manage to speak to some of them, and must indicate that it was not an easy thing to even get to the airport, because when you arrive here at the airport, you must first get permission from Airports Company South Africa as a television crew to start filming and even requesting interviews. So that obviously meant that the delay, we couldn't even speak to the actual passengers who were directly involved. It might be that their flights at some point managed to take off, but we managed to speak to even the random passengers who were in the queues, and they said, look, from our point of view, we haven't really experienced any delays, and there has not been any communication informing us that our flights are delayed. As matters stood at the time, according to them, their flights were on schedule. Maybe let's listen to them.
Moloko, it doesn't look like we have those ready to go. I just have to ask you, do we know when operations are expected to return to normal? The representative that you spoke to earlier said 9 flights were affected. Do we know what that looks like as far as the timeline goes?
Well, according to the statement by Airports Company South Africa, which, by the way, are the owners of OR Tambo International Airport, in terms of issues around fuel, they say that things are back to normal. They are able to refuel these aeroplanes. And of course, earlier on, we heard that this also apparently affected Cape Town International Airport. The SAA representative admitted that no, she actually made a mistake. OR Tambo, things are working smoothly that side. The issue was only here at OR Tambo International Airport. Now, according to SAA, they are saying, look, we have already begun taking off. Our passengers are flying out of OR Tambo. But obviously, she said this kind of like has a ripple effect, throughout the day. They expect that some of the flights would be affected because of what might have transpired during the day. However, they are hopeful that at least by 5 p.m. tonight, things would be completely back to normal. But that is just from SAA's point of view. SAA is not only the only airline that is operating out of OR Tambo. We tried, Shadika, to try to speak to other airlines. We were not that lucky. And of course, you understand that some of the personnel here would say we're not allowed to speak to the media. But I did even see on the check-in counters, for instance, of Ethiopian Airline, things seem to be going well smoothly. And even other airlines such as Fly South Air and Flight Center, of course, you can see some of them are still delayed, but others are written in green, which is an indication that they are boarding already. But possibly, chances are that throughout the day, the inconvenience will be felt. But according to the passengers we spoke to, they, did not seem to be impacted.